Welcome to Business Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories, from stock markets to currency news. Business Review covers the most up-to-date developments in the global financial world.
The European Commission chief said she was still convinced a post-Brexit deal was possible as the bloc in Britain kicked off a decisive week of talks on a new trade deal and on implementing their divorce agreement. Britain left the EU last January and is locked in negotiations on a new trade deal from 2021, as well as on implementing the divorce as set out in the withdrawal agreement, especially on the sensitive Irish border. EU national leaders will assess the state of play at a summit next month, with a no-deal Brexit still possible. Negotiations have stumbled over fisheries, fair competition and settling disputes, and Brexit descended into fresh chaos this month when London proposed draft laws that would undermine the earlier agreement. The EU says negotiators must seal an agreement by the end of October or early November to leave time for ratification by the European Parliament and some national parliaments in the EU so that it can take effect from 2021 when Britain's standstill transition ends after Brexit. Otherwise, the delicate peace on the island of Ireland, as well as an estimated €1 trillion worth of annual EU to UK trade, would be at risk as these sides would fall back on general World Trade Organization rules that include tariffs and quotas.
The world is even more in need of multilateralism, the most distinctive hallmark of the United Nations, in the face of the profound changes unseen in a century, with China being one of the strongest global supporters of it. Nothing, not even mountains and oceans, can separate people with shared goals and visions, and holding high the banner of peace, development, cooperation, and win-win outcome, China is firm in safeguarding global governance system. According to the president at a global governance forum co-hosted by China and France in 2019, he will continue to hold high the banner of multilateralism of the United Nations, give full play to the constructive roles of global and regional multilateral mechanisms as the World Trade Organization, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Group of 20 and the European Union, and make joint efforts to build a community. The Belt and Road Initiative has over the past 7 years been carried out into depth and consolidation, and China has worked together with other countries to seek development in the spirit of opening up its economy. He said working together to build the Belt and Road goes with historical ties of economic globalization, responds to the call of the times for changes in global governance system, and meets the burning desire of people of all countries for a better life. Unity is strength, and the destinies of all countries are interconnected. Chinese president said at the meeting that China will expand the mutually beneficial cooperation with other countries, continue to push economic globalization, steadfastly uphold multilateral trading system, the safe and smooth operations of the global industrial and supply chains, and make joint efforts to make prosperity reappear in the economy.
The French government on September 28th presented a 2021 budget plotting a path out of its worst post-war recession, with €42 billion pumped into the economy in the first year of its €100 billion two-year recovery plan. The government expects the Eurozone's second biggest economy to contract a record 10% this year, following a nearly 2-month coronavirus lockdown, plunging the country into one of the deepest recessions in Europe. Paris has mobilized more than €470 billion in tax breaks, state-subsidized furloughs and business loan guarantees to contain the crisis, blowing the public sector budget deficit out to a record 10.2% of GDP this year. The economy bounced back after the lockdown was lifted in May, and the government forecasts it will surge 8% next year, boosted by the first tranche of the €100 billion recovery plan. You see, we are not wasting any time. Get the money moving, which will allow our economy to recover. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire told journalists in a presentation of the 2021 budget. The Public Finance High Council, an independent oversight panel, said the growth forecasts were cautious for this year but ambitious for 2021, and said the deficit targets were reachable. The COVID-19 outbreak blew a more than €100 billion hole in the central state's deficit, which swelled to €195 billion this year and has to be financed by additional debt. As a result, the public debt is set to surge from less than 100% of gross domestic product last year to 117.5% this year, before easing to 116.2%. Le Maire said that the extra debt would be paid down through the return of economic growth, careful budget management, and structural reforms such as a planned pension overhaul, which the coronavirus epidemic put on hold.
Restaurant owners and workers staged a rare protest in the French city of Marseille on September the 28th as they were forced to close shop after the French government took fresh measures to stop a second wave of coronavirus infections. Local politicians said the move was disproportionate to the risk and would devastate the local economy. Dozens of protesters decided to block one of the port city's main roads, carrying banners criticizing this move. The government order came last week after it placed Marseille and its surrounding areas on the Mediterranean on the maximum alert for the spread of the virus. The pandemic has killed more than 31,500 people in France and infected nearly 500,000. Restaurants are banned from welcoming diners for at least 2 weeks. Some have resorted to takeaway services, such as restaurant owner Bruno Gargot, who was not convinced he would recoup his lost earnings. Earlier, the health minister, Olivier Véran, visited an intensive care ward in the city where doctors told him the next weeks could be critical. Public hospital ICU units in the city are nearly full, according to doctors.
The list of 2020 China Top 500 enterprises was released by China Enterprise Confederation, or the CEC, at a summit in Zhengzhou City, capital of central China's Henan province. The CEC has been releasing the list for 19 consecutive years, and it has become a major barometer reflecting the situation of China's economy. The top 500 enterprises have maintained a positive trend of development, with operating revenues growing at a medium to high pace and asset scales expanding at a medium to low pace. The net profit of the enterprises maintained an overall growth trend, while their losses decreased to varying degrees, and the profit margin indicators increased for some enterprises and declined for some others. The total operating revenue of the top 500 enterprises reached 86.02 trillion yuan, an increase of 8.75% over the previous year. Among the enterprises, Sinopec Group, State Grid Corporation, and China National Petroleum Corporation rank the top three with respective operating revenues of about 2.81 trillion yuan, 2.65 trillion yuan, and 2.62 trillion yuan. Historically, the number of enterprises whose business revenue hits 100 billion yuan broke the 200 mark for the first time, and the research and development investment of the enterprises exceeded 1 trillion yuan for the first time, showing a record high in history. The list also shows declining debts in real economy, active mergers and acquisitions, optimizing industrial structures, rapidly developing strategic emerging industries, continuously improved quality of patents, and stronger discourse powers on industrial development. As the number of world-level enterprises had increased significantly and international operation has been carried into depth, the average transitional index of the 100 transitional enterprises hits a record high. Zhu Hongren, Executive Vice President and Chairperson of the CEC, said the data of the top 500 Chinese enterprises displays an overall picture of China's economy, as the top 500 enterprises have achieved remarkable progress in high-quality development. China's economy is also steadily forging ahead from a large economy to a powerful economy.
This has been Business Review, your daily source for the most critical financial stories. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.